As a scientist, I can tell you that Sundays are only 24 hours long. But with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get every game every Sunday all in one place. That's upwards of 30 hours of NFL in one day. How can there be 30 hours in 24 hours, you ask? I have a theory. Magic. New users get NFL Sunday Ticket for 8 payments of $34.50 per month. Sign up at nflsundayticket.com. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games and commercial use. Terms and embargoes apply. Availability varies.
The Hilton sale is on. Now through September 29th, you can save up to 20% on stays this fall and beyond. Long weekends, last-minute getaways, holiday gatherings. There's a Hilton stay for all of them. More moments, more experiences, more destinations. Now 20% off for a limited time because it matters where you stay. Don't wait. Book by September 29th and save up to 20% at Hilton.com. Terms apply. Hilton for the stay.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, I don't know, we're going to talk about, is the government, how much control do they really have over the people? Like, are we really free, or are we pretty much a bunch of serfs? Are they our lords and we just work within their parameters? I feel like there's a lot of controls out there that have a strong effect on our life and our decision and our freedom. So I don't know. Let's kind of jump into it. What comes to mind when you think of like big government and how much control? Do you feel like you're really free, Kevin? Let's start there. Do you feel free?
Well, I mean, yeah, in a sense I am. I can choose where I work. I can choose where I live. I can, choose how much I do or don't drink. And I can mostly afford the food I want to eat. And I can mostly afford the vehicles I want to drive.
And you can have cigarettes, alcohol. Some states you can have marijuana. Maybe not the full buffet.
High as shit. Right. Completely legally.
Not the full buffet of drugs somebody might be interested in.
You know what I'm saying, baby? Sometimes I feel like doing a little bit of coke, but I can't do it. It's against the law, and I am a law-abiding citizen.
Kevin, that's a good thing, Kevin. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little less coke in your life is a positive. Yeah. All right. Let's dig a little deeper then. But obviously it's not just about drugs. Do you feel like, I know a lot of people feel like, you know what? I just go to work nonstop to pay taxes. I just go to work to make the government happy. I can't buy the cool guns that I want because the tax stamps or because of, the NFA rules, that kind of thing. There's things, how many times, do we get upset when we see a policeman just walk up, show me your ID, you need to, whatever, yield to my will, and it seems most states actually have laws that you're not required to show your ID unless you're committing a crime, or at least being accused of committing a crime. That's not.
But I mean, you can accuse anybody you want of committing a crime. It's not like, that's not a high bar.
Right.
So whatever, it doesn't really mean anything. New York State, if a police officer stops you on the street and wants to see your ID, you don't have to show it to him. But I've never seen that actually work out. Yeah, that doesn't work out.
But you've seen videos to the contrary.
Mm-hmm. And how many times have you heard of somebody being arrested for resisting arrest? Like, that doesn't even make any goddamn sense.
Kevin, there's whole YouTube channels made just on that thought, right?
Right.
Oh man, it's bad. And then, so the same thing is, right? You're free. And I understand, like, as a society, we need some kind of rules, right? Like you're saying, well, the bullshit speed limit things. All right. But do you want it to be like, hey, if you want to drive 70 while the school bus is stopped and loading up kids, can we all agree that's a good idea? Or can we agree that maybe that would be bad?
Well, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of traffic laws. Most traffic laws are reasonable.
In the public good? Right.
Yeah, for the public good. I know that there's obviously, we all know where the spots are in our areas where it goes from 55 to 30 miles an hour, and there's always a police officer sitting right there after the sign.
Yeah.
We all know where those spots are because they're always getting people there.
Right. And the thing is, like, you see the like super stealthy, like here we have a lot of like Mustangs that are all, and they might have like the ghost writing on the side.
Right.
Where like if you shine on it, it reflects like sheriff or something, but pretty much you don't know, or completely unmarked cars.
But if,
basically
if you're not breaking the law, why do you need to hide? I don't know.
Right. The tinted windows, are like, oh, I bet you that guy's a cop because look, his windows are freaking black,
Right.
You're like, but somehow it's safe for them, but not for us, right?
Not for you. Right.
Well, the idea is, I think, it's when a cop walks up behind, he can't see inside that you're getting ready to blast him or something. But, like, I don't know. It just seems dumb.
It's a revenue
hell out of my business.
You know what I mean? Most of those things, like the speed traps we were talking about, that's just to get revenue. That's just making money for the state. That's not. Right. That's just an extra tax. It's not, for people's safety. Those speed traps are just so they can earn money.
Right. We have the trucks that have the Carolina squat. Do you know about this?
I don't know anything about it. No.
Oh, the Carolina squat. We got a good thing going down here in the South. If you're really cool, you lower the back end of your pick 'em up truck and you have the front raised like 6 inches higher than normal and the back like lower than like 4 inches lower. So, but the problem is the argument that the police are making is you can't even see over your hood to what's in front of you because you're so far back.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, so there's so they passed a law and like everybody's truck became illegal for, now me, I like a level.
Nice
truck.
level.
Like, I want it completely level, but teach their own. So Kevin, that freedom is being denied to many North Carolinians.
To the Carolina squatters.
To the Carolina squatters, So whatever. But now, like, all right, so one of the biggest things that gets in the way of our freedom is having access to the money that you earn or seeing the results of your labor. And that would be through taxation, right? Mm-hmm. And taxation's bigger than you think. I think my tax bracket is something like 28%, which is kind of ugly. I think yours would be at like 28% because it's a pretty big window.
Right.
It's not, if you're out there earning, and I don't know, I feel like that hurts. That hurts people to just have all your money taken because it demotivates you. I don't know, discourages, I guess is the word.
Right.
It discourages you from going out and earning more, right? They always say, oh, we should tax the hell out of cigarettes because that'll encourage people to not smoke. Mm-hmm. Or we should tax the hell out of people who drink alcohol because then they'll drink less alcohol. Or, anything like that we do, they call it a sin tax, right? And they put it on those things. But why would you tax the hell out of earning money? Because wouldn't that discourage you from going out and earning money?
Yeah, and I know somebody that was looking to get promoted to manager with a very minimal pay increase.
Okay.
And he said, if I take that manager position, I'll get more responsibility.
Right.
But I'll also end up making less money because it'll put me in the next tax bracket. And so my actual income, my actual pay will be less than it was before.
I don't know if that's really true. I believe he said that and made that argument. I'm just saying, I don't know that that's what really happens. I always hear that because the way it works, we have an incremental tax system.
Right.
Where so in theory, like I said, I pay 28%, but I pay it on money I make between one level and the next level.
Right.
The first like
amount
20, 30,000 that I make, I don't pay 28% on. Just like a billionaire, it's that higher end that he's getting taxed on. Now, what I will say is when you shift into a different tax bracket, the amount of money they take out of your paycheck each week dramatically will go up. But then you'll get a bigger refund in the end, based on like, you get the idea. Yeah, right. Like it does, obviously you could be at a level. Here's where it would make sense. You could be at a level where all of a sudden you don't qualify for like the child tax credit or all these other different things. Like, so you lose those benefits and those could outweigh the extra money that you could be getting in your paycheck. So you can make an argument there.
You need to keep your wife pregnant all the time.
As long as those babies are coming in, you can always hit that threshold. Yeah, that's smart, Kevin. That's good advice right there. Now, so let's talk about tax. So I said that income tax is 28% for me. Now, where else are we being taxed? I mean, it turns out there's a lot of different taxes going on. So you have income tax. That's huge. And people, that's all they want to hear when you say, oh, what's your tax rate? But then you have payroll tax, and that's Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid.
That is a big chunk.
Right. There is capital gains tax. Now, this one always really bugs the hell out of me, capital gains tax, because it's at a high percentage. It changes 25%. All the time.
Yeah.
Is it 25? Okay.
Right now.
So, but here's the problem. If I go out and I invest in the stock market, if I lose everything, I have $100,000. I go and I put it all in the stock market. I invest in, we'll say, Angel Studios, right? The new TV thing. They just went public. It's a big thing. It's exciting. And I make an extra $100,000. So my $100,000 is now $200,000. They're going to take $25,000 of that money. The problem is, they didn't risk anything. They just get my money. And you're saying, well, Chuck, you earned money. So, that's earning money and that's what happens. But if I put that 100,000 in there and it disappeared and went to zero tomorrow, the government would be like, sucks to be you. They're not giving me like, hey, that's less of a hit. Now, I can offset that loss to earnings I made in another area. So there is something to be said there. But basically, if I'm a bad stock picker and I just lose everything, then it's gone. Another thing is excise taxes. Now, this would be like, people don't realize when you go to the gas pump, they just bam. And it's not like, say your state has like your county has like 8% sales tax. This is separate. This is like 20%, 25 sometimes. Right. They say if you take the tax out of gas, like it cuts in half in a lot of areas. It's crazy. They also have estate gift taxes. Now, this level is pretty high. For you to have an inheritance tax, I think it's at least $1 million per person. So,
right. It's not, it's really just focuses on super wealthy people.
In my mind, super wealthy, right?
Exactly.
And the idea is to have like a lot of kids to leave it to. So, I would say it's reasonable. I mean, I know this isn't typical, but it should be reasonable that when you die, you have about $1 million worth of assets, because hopefully you have your house paid off. And God knows houses are like $500,000 for an average house anymore. And people have like life insurance and things like that. So it's reasonable to have $1 million to leave, but it's not really typical. And especially if you have a couple of kids, you spread that to 3 people, then it's rare. You're a rich guy if you're leaving $3 million, I think so. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I invest badly. Maybe that's my problem. All right. Anyway, then there's local income tax. You pay sales tax on. New York City has a separate income tax in addition.
That's right.
So you could be paying 3 income taxes there.
Yeah.
Then
I actually worked in New York City for, I worked from out of state, but I was working in the city for a week, and I had to pay
separate tax
you
there.
St. Louis was the same thing. I had to pay income tax to St. Louis.
They were always going after Rush Limbaugh because he moved from New York to Florida. And they're like, if you were here one day, you got to, we're going to audit you because you came in to see some friends. Did you talk about business while you were there?
Yeah. They'll talk about your ideas over every way they can.
I was shocked because I was actually, I think the discussions he was having, but the big thing is football players, dude, when every city they play in for the whole thing, you got to pay in each city your tax.
I didn't know that.
And so it's every game. You're all over the place. It's ridiculous. So that's something to, keep in mind. But anyway, back to taxes. So there's that. That's huge. Obviously, a lot of places have high vehicle registration fees. I actually have where I live in North Carolina, we have a what's your vehicle worth because you have a $10,000 car. It's funny. I have a 2011 Ram that I think is, the cool truck worth money. They assess it like $6,000, which honestly is probably accurate. But then I have a 71 Ford that I bought for $6,100. It's a F100. And that they actually say is worth $22,000 every year. And I'm like, no, it's not. And we fight about it every year and I have to complain. And they're like, if you don't appeal this and show pictures, and I'm like, oh my God. And they make it hard. So they can kind of screw you any way they want. Next is hotel occupancy. Have you ever seen this where you book something on Expedia and they're like, it's this much for the room plus 150 in fees or taxes or whatever. They get you on that. There's also the state does. So there's income and property taxes on the city level, the state level. You also pay taxes on utilities, like electricity and water.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As we just mentioned, hotel occupancy, they did that. But then you also have tolls on roads, right? Remember Easy Pass in New York? That's the big thing, right? They just charging. There used to be a joke when I was a kid about going to New Jersey because they had a toll booth every 3 miles because they have an exit every 3 miles and they want to be sure that nobody's getting on and getting off and not, you don't want to dodge that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's only 30 cents every toll booth, but you got to stop and pay it every couple miles. Yep.
That was ridiculous. So then you go into, they have sin taxes. Now they're taxing marijuana, tobacco, that's why a lot of these things. And I think I mentioned pet licenses, customs and duty taxes, remember all these tariffs, right? Everyone's scared and talking about that. That's an additional, I guess, unseen tax, right? Because the tax isn't on you directly, but guess what? They always say corporations don't pay taxes, individuals do. The reason they're saying that is because if the company is going to have to pay a 30% tax on something when they sell it to you, they're going to charge you 30% more, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to charge you 50% more and blame the tariff. I don't know. But so that's always a thing, it's so if they take that much of your labor, are you really free? That's I guess the bigger insight there, Kevin. I mean, I don't know. I find that concerning. I find that upsetting to me.
Yeah, well, let's a little bit about taxes. What we got. So,
okay.
A lot of what we talk about, being about America being, this great place is because we have this massive middle class.
We do have guns. Yes.
A large middle class is, means that everybody can get to the point where they're making enough money that they can pay their bills, they can afford their food and their housing and all their costs and still have some money left over to maybe go out to eat or go see a movie.
Oh, I like to go out to eat.
Whatever extra stuff they want to do. So how big is the middle class?
Buy bougie beers.
States? Yeah, fancy beers. The fancy beers. Well, the middle class used to be a large portion of the population, right? So now middle class is, depending on where you live, it's different state by state. but it's somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 a year is middle class. So, 18% of Americans earn over $100,000 a year. 5%.
That's not that impressive.
No, 5% own over 200, make over $200,000 a year, which leaves 13% of the population as middle class. That's not really middle anymore, though, is it? If it's only 13%, that's not really middle class. That's basically upper class. If the top 20% make middle class income, that's not middle class anymore, but that's still where it's listed. So rising trends such as raising debt, income inequality, declining economic mobility, and precarious work conditions are creating a modern form of debt serfdom.
Oh,
so let's talk about economic dependence.
Well, hang on. Let me touch on for 1 second before you go there. So you're talking about, not that many people earn that, that $100,000 to $200,000 range, right? But here's the thing too. You got to realize where I work, and I assume this is possibly pretty typical throughout the country, where I work, a good percentage of the people at least are high 70s to 150,000 a year. But here's the thing, before you're all like, wow, they're all rich, right? But here's the thing. Most of those people are all doing minimum 60 hours a week.
Right.
It's nonstop. They're not doing your little 40 hour to get there. The people who are earning the 100 to 200, I feel like are breaking their backs typically.
They're basically working themselves to death.
They're working themselves to death to get there. Now, again, if you said, well, what about people earning 500,000 a year? I think those people are actually probably working less than the people. I think that
in my experience,
80 to 200,000, those are the guys killing themselves. But also the guys making 30,000, they're probably killing themselves. Because they need every penny. So they're going to work. Right.
The hardest jobs I've ever had were doing concrete, because basically you're just carrying concrete, and hanging drywall, and those don't pay very well. I would say that the best, the easier your job is, the more money you're making. If you're working for minimum wage, you probably have a shitty boss, and you're probably working a shitty job.
Right. Absolutely.
And I don't know how that works out. But if you're working fast food, that's not the best job you can have, dude. You're not getting paid well, and you're treated like shit.
Right. You're working hard. And that's the thing. It does seem the more money you make, the less hard work.
Maybe you're more stress in your life.
And that's it. I think people are like, oh, CEO won't do anything. Well, to be honest, I mean, if you make $100 million a year, your dollar per hour is pretty freaking impressive. But as far as work, I think they're typically under a lot of stress and working nonstop, and every decision matters. But, it's always if I screw up, I'm only going to get 5 million this year and not 27. But just the same, you might not make anything next year, but that 5 million you made goes pretty far in the eyes of the guy making 30,000 a year. So
right. 100% does. So cost of living is going up. We can all agree on that. Cost of wages is not keeping up with cost of living.
Not in any way. Right.
Not even close.
The average income can't buy the average house or pay the average rent, which is crazy.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of people, want to better themselves. Go to college, I'll get a degree, then I'll get a good. But now you get your college degree, you're out looking for a job, but you still have to make those loan payments, right? So you owe $80,000 a year, and you don't even have any income yet. A lot of people are stuck in that, where they go to school for 4 years. Now they're 25, and they still have this massive amount of debt. They're not even really making any income until they're 30, 35 years old,
Right.
Which not a great time to start a family. Should have done that 15 years ago. A lot of people also are under the what do they call it? Precarious employment. Everybody knows that most states, meaning that you can just quit your job whenever you want to, but they can also fire you whenever they want to. And they don't even have to give you a reason. They can just say, nope, we don't like it.
It's funny. They open themselves up. Right. They open themselves up to more liability if they give you a reason.
If they tell you why they fired.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
It's easier to just say, I didn't like you anymore. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess they can't even say those words. Just, we no longer need you. How about that?
Yeah.
We needed you before. We don't need you today.
No, we don't need you. Yep. And you're right. They are better off to not tell you why you're fired because
then there's a reason they can say, well, that isn't justified. That's, whatever.
Exactly.
Just go away.
A lot of people feel like they're in a position of declining mobility, meaning that it's harder to achieve like the traditional milestones for young people today.
Yes.
Yes. I can afford to get married. I can afford to have kids. A lot of people aren't getting to those points at where a reasonable time frame,
Yeah. I think that's absolutely true.
Housing costs, and like you said, housing costs are on an all-time high. So, if you can afford a house and can afford to make the payments on that house every month without missing one, because miss 2 or 3, that's it, dude. Homeless now. You lose your job, you might be fucked.
And there's a lot of jobs that they're downsizing. I know the company I work at, we just did a dramatic downsizing, and they basically argue uncertainty, right? And to be honest, it's because we're controlled by the government. And here's why. And it's about the tariffs. And I don't think the tariffs are that scary. I think I can't get into too much detail, but I think that, the argument is, well, the tariffs, people aren't making new things. They have uncertainty about the future. Although I feel like most of the tariff stuff's resolved at this point, but they're afraid to spend money and make new orders. Right. But I think part of it also is the political landscape of, we don't know what environmental restrictions are going to be in the future. So do we make a lot of things geared towards, restrictive environment stuff? Or do we make things based on, a free for all and anybody can buy anything? That uncertainty causes companies to not, go. And it's hard to blame the guy in office because they just don't know who the next guy is, because you don't know what the future holds, or maybe even a Congress that's going to limit, the future. It makes it so uncertain. Nobody knows how to plan. And you would think there would be a consistency, but there doesn't seem to be. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think, right now they still have to, the Supreme Court still has to rule on the legality of a president making tariffs when, the Constitution says it's the Congress that does it, not the president. The president can't do it. How the Supreme Court's going to rule, who fucking knows? Because they just seem like they've just been making shit up as they go along lately too, which seems crazy, but whatever.
And I think that's part of it. That's part of the fear that everybody has, is because the power is out of our hands. Mm-hmm. It just is like, it used to be the idea that, well, they're bound by a constitution. The Constitution clearly outlines how things need to be. And this is how government's going to be. So they can only do so much and it's going to be okay. But that's not the way the world has shifted. We're, it's what is it? They always used to tell us it's an outdated document, right? They always used to say it's a thing of the past. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. We just ignore it. And that's the thing. You're like, oh, Chuck, they can't do that. That would be unconstitutional. And they'll be like, yeah, when do we do anything that's constitutional? Yeah. What are you talking about? Like,
that doesn't matter anymore. That hasn't mattered for a while.
Those rules. Right.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things, though, we do in America have free speech. And that's another thing. So let's talk about that.
Do we?
And that's the thing. Like, right. So you have a president that's maybe going after people who try and showcase ideas. We have things like YouTube, where it's a private company, and I'm all about private companies being allowed to do whatever they want to do and say whatever they want to say. Like, if I own a business, I want to be able to say, you know what? I'm only going to sell cars in black because that's what I want to make. I don't think you should be able to come in and tell me I want a blue car and whatever. Now, if I sell you that car, you can go paint it blue. There can be Jimmy who paints it blue. That's fine. But if I'm selling it, I should be able to decide what I do. And I feel like
here's the thing, though. Here's the trick: is you have to lease that car. That way, you can make sure they never paint it black.
They never paint it blue.
That's how honestly, that's how a lot of shit is working now, that you don't actually own the products you buy.
I'll license it to you. There was a lot of things where, like, if you buy Amazon, like you have Amazon Prime Video, if you buy that into your collection kind of thing, it says buy. That buy doesn't mean you own it forever. Read the fine print. They can make it go away. And you're like, well, but that doesn't make any sense because I bought it. Do you understand what the word
$26 means? So I could watch Gremlins whenever I wanted to.
Whenever. Right. And they're like, no, it went away. Sucks to be you. Nope. That Dukes of Hazzard collection, Rebel Flag. No, not going to happen anymore.
No, sir.
No, I don't know. It actually came back. It kind of went full circle on that one. But yeah, they're back in the game in acceptable society. I don't really understand. Not the Rebel Flag per se, but the Dukes of Hazzard kind of full circle. But anyway, so that's the thing, is there's that free speech. So we were touched in on YouTube. So the problem is you have, and I don't know the right answer. That's the whole thing, right? I don't know. It should be this way. So that's the problem. But YouTube can decide what we discuss in society and what's acceptable. There is a whole list of things that you're not allowed to do because of the greater good, right? Like I can't, talk about, I can't even mention the words without getting banned. So it's ridiculous.
Right. Don't say it.
But there's a lot of secret things that we're not allowed to mention on a podcast because of YouTube. Now, again, that's where I'm morally conflicted, because it's a private company and they should be able to make any rule they want. Yeah. But they're the
where
whole
else are you going to go?
There's nowhere else. I know there's Odyssey and some other channels, but really, if I want to reach a large audience, this is where I need to be. It just, or you kind of fade into the darkness if you go to the other free speech channels, So
and people say, well, if you don't agree with the rules on social media platforms about what you can and can't say, you can just go get your soapbox and stand out in front of your town hall and tell everybody you see everything you want to tell them, and it's fine. Go do that and see how long it is before the police show up and be like, nope. Yeah. You can't do that here. And we have bylaws. It says you can't stand in front of town hall. You technically, legally, according to the Constitution, according to the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, you can stand in front of the town hall and ask people to give you $5. You can.
You even have a right to assemble.
But go do that and see how long before the police show up, because they're going to trespass you, and then you're going to go to jail if you don't leave. So absolutely, say free speech, and technically, you could even shout fire in a crowded theater. It's not against the law.
Supreme Court said it's a go.
It's a go. You can do that. We have absolute free speech in the United States, until the police show up and put you in jail. So, you can push your luck, and maybe you won't even get in trouble. You'll just have to spend 2 days in jail and bail yourself out and maybe get that money back, and maybe you won't get a fine or a sentence. Test it out. See if that works out for you. See if your job is like, well, he's fighting for free speech. It's fine that he did a no-call, no-show for 2 days. Yeah.
It was freedom. Yeah. Exactly. So anyone who's out there pushing those ideas and, helping the discussion, and so often, depending who's in power in government, one type of speech will be, allowed, and then the next guy gets elected, and then other types of speech are not allowed. And it's, it becomes hate speech. It's divisive. You get, it might be the people on The View tearing you down. It might be somebody who's the example of the right-wing people tearing you down. I don't know.
Anti-Semitism is a law now, so that's why Harvard's in trouble, because they allowed somebody to say anti-Semitic something on their. What is anti-Semitism though? Like, is pro-Palestine shit? Is that anti-Semitic? I don't know. I don't think so, but that still got Harvard in trouble. So nothing means anything anymore.
And that's the thing, like all this stuff that becomes hate speech and it just it gets ridiculous. But I don't know. All I know is everywhere you go, you need to be, don't be afraid to be honest. Oh. Yeah, well, that's it. No, and I'm saying, but maybe we need to turn it upside down. That's the problem. Society, we're so worried about offending and upsetting people. And it's both sides, right? Like I actually specifically work with like a bunch of conservative type people, but then there are other people I work with that are not, and nobody will say anything conservative when anyone else is in the room because they're afraid of the backlash, not necessarily like getting fired, but somebody coming in and like screaming at you for the next 2 hours or whatever, where it's easier to just, oh yeah, you're probably right. That's I heard that too. I heard that too, buddy. Yeah. I can be on your team because that's how it goes sometimes, So I don't know. That's where we're at, but just know that, we really appreciate you guys and you have thoughts about, how we're being limited or ideas. We all are all about solutions. If you have ways to make the world better and you want us to talk about it, let us know. Otherwise, I would say learn to protect yourself, learn to protect your family, learn to live outside of the government. The more I just have my property, and obviously I have to pay taxes. A lot of places you have to get permission to build something. But as much as I can be in my own business and you not be in my business, that's the world I want to live in. Right. And being a prepper, that's how I prepare, is isolating myself. So, Kevin, last thoughts? We're good? Yeah,
I agree with you. Mind your own business.
Mind your business. That's it. They used to put it on pennies. It means something. Anyway, so thoughts, concerns, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Otherwise, check out our website, survivalbasicbadasspodcast.com. And with that, I'd say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.